There is something unfolding behind the silence, something your heart has felt before your mind could explain it. You may have sensed the distance in their voice, the hesitation in their energy, the strange shift in the way they looked at you when no words were spoken. And for a while, you questioned yourself. You wondered if perhaps you had changed, if perhaps something within you had become harder to love, harder to understand, harder to choose. But listen carefully. What changed was not your worth. What changed was the story they were given about you. Someone may have placed confusion where clarity once lived. Someone may have spoken from jealousy, fear, insecurity, and your person listened longer than they should have. But even now, beneath all of that noise, something deeper is happening. Because truth has a way of surviving every distortion. It lingers. It waits. And eventually, it begins to press against every lie until the entire illusion starts to crack. What they believed is no longer sitting comfortably in their spirit. That is why their thoughts have become restless. That is why your name keeps returning to them in moments they cannot explain. They are starting to notice contradictions, small at first, almost invisible. A detail that did not add up. A story that suddenly feels rehearsed. A warning they were given that now sounds more like manipulation than concern. And once a person begins to question one piece of deception, everything else attached to it begins to unravel. Stay a little longer, because this is where the shift begins. The version of you they were handed is no longer matching the truth they keep feeling in their heart. They are starting to realize that the peace they were promised without you never truly came. They are starting to notice that no matter how far they tried to move away from your energy, something within them kept turning back. And perhaps the most powerful part of all is this: they are beginning to feel regret, not because someone told them to, but because realization has its own weight. It arrives quietly. It sits beside a person in the middle of the night. It whispers through old memories. It replays moments they once misunderstood until suddenly, they see them differently. They are remembering the way you cared when you had no reason to. The way your intentions stayed pure even when misunderstood. The way your silence held more dignity than the noise surrounding you. And now a question has begun forming in them, one they cannot ignore anymore. What if I judged the right person based on the wrong voice? Do not miss this moment. Because when that question enters someone's heart, everything changes. Their pride begins to weaken. Their certainty begins to collapse. Their emotional walls begin to shake. Yet they are not ready to show it, not fully. Not yet. Right now they are still wrestling with the discomfort of realizing they may have let someone else's influence cloud something genuine. They are still trying to understand how they allowed another perspective to shape their feelings before fully trusting their own. But this inner conflict is preparing them for something bigger. Because once a person recognizes they were misled, they do not simply return unchanged. They return with clearer eyes. Sharper discernment. A deeper understanding of what they almost lost. And what comes next may surprise even you. Because the truth is not merely being seen, it is beginning to move. Circumstances are aligning. Hidden tensions are surfacing. Masks are becoming harder for others to maintain. The very person who tried to shape the narrative may soon reveal more than they intended. And when they do, your person will understand everything in a way they never have before. The pieces are gathering. The silence is speaking. And the next realization headed toward them is the one they will not be able to ignore. Because soon, they will have to confront not just what they were told about you, but why they were told it in the first place. There is a moment in every unfolding truth when the heart stops defending the illusion, and starts examining the source. That moment is approaching for them now. They are no longer only questioning what was said, they are beginning to question why it was said. Why did that person seem so determined to shape their perception of you? Why was there such urgency to create distance between you? Why did every warning come wrapped in certainty, yet leave behind unease instead of peace? These questions are not random. They are signs of awakening. And once someone begins to notice hidden motives behind another person's words, trust shifts forever. Your person is starting to replay conversations with new awareness. Statements they once accepted now sound strangely calculated. Advice they once believed now feels laced with personal agenda. They are beginning to sense that what looked like concern may have been control, what sounded like honesty may have been projection, and what appeared to be protection may have actually been interference. Don't skip this part, because this realization cuts deeper than they expected. It is one thing to miss someone. It is another thing entirely to realize you may have pushed away someone meaningful because another voice planted doubt where love was trying to grow. That truth has unsettled them more than they admit. They carry it quietly. Outwardly they may seem normal, composed, unchanged. But internally, something has shifted. They are no longer looking at the past through the same lens. They are re-examining your patience. Reinterpreting your silence. Understanding now that many moments they once misunderstood were not signs against you, but signs they failed to read correctly. And with every memory revisited, the image they had of you becomes clearer, softer, more truthful. They are seeing not the version they were told to fear, but the version of you they experienced for themselves, and that version is winning. Still, clarity often arrives with discomfort. Because now they must face another truth: if they were misled about you, then they may have hurt someone who never deserved it. That realization is heavy. Heavier than pride likes to carry. It forces reflection. It forces accountability. It forces a person to sit with the possibility that the distance between you was not caused by fate, but by misplaced trust. Something important is waiting for you in this shift, because remorse has a way of opening doors that ego once kept locked. The more they understand the truth, the harder it becomes for them to stay emotionally distant. But this is not only about regret. It is about recognition. They are beginning to understand your value in a way they could not before. Sometimes a person does not fully comprehend someone's depth until noise is stripped away and only truth remains. And now that the outside influence is weakening, your energy is reaching them differently. They are feeling your absence more honestly. They are noticing the emptiness where your presence once lived. They are recognizing that what they dismissed was rare, and what they overlooked was real. Yet the most revealing moment has still not arrived. Because one final confirmation is approaching, something spoken, shown, or exposed that will remove the last fragment of doubt from their mind. When that happens, the truth will no longer be a suspicion. It will become undeniable. And once that final piece falls into place, they will understand not only that you were misjudged, but that someone intentionally tried to stand between what was meant to be understood naturally. When that realization lands, their next move may come faster than anyone expects. And when that final piece of truth settles into place, hesitation begins to disappear. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in the quiet, undeniable way that certainty replaces confusion. Your person is nearing that threshold now. They are moving from suspicion into knowing. From wondering if something was off, to understanding that something was deliberately distorted. And once a person reaches that level of clarity, they cannot return to the old story. They cannot unknow what has been revealed. They cannot keep pretending their heart does not recognize what their mind now sees. What happens next is not merely emotional, it is transformational. Because the moment someone realizes they were turned against a genuine connection through someone else's influence, they begin questioning every decision that came from that misunderstanding. They ask themselves difficult things. Why did I ignore my own intuition? Why did I trust another perspective over what I personally felt? Why did I let confusion overpower connection? These are not light questions. They shake a person from within. And your person is standing in the middle of that internal reckoning right now. You may not hear it yet, but your name has become heavier in their thoughts. It no longer passes through their mind casually. It lingers. It carries emotion. It stirs reflection. Because now when they think of you, they are not remembering the distorted version created by outside voices, they are remembering the moments that felt real. The conversations that touched something deeper. The energy they could not fake. The connection they tried to dismiss but never fully escaped. Stay till the end, because this matters more than you realize. They are beginning to understand that what they felt for you was never the problem. The problem was the interference surrounding it. And with that understanding comes a new urgency inside them. Not panic, clarity. A quiet but growing need to correct what was mishandled. To understand what was lost. To determine whether the distance between you can still be repaired. They may still appear controlled on the surface, but underneath that calm is momentum building. Their heart is no longer passive. Their thoughts are no longer neutral. Something within them is pushing toward resolution, because unresolved truth creates pressure, and pressure always seeks release. Yet before they move, there is one more battle taking place within them, the battle between pride and honesty. Pride whispers, "Stay silent. Too much time has passed. Let it go." But honesty answers, "You know what really happened now. And silence will not erase what you understand." This is why they have seemed conflicted. Why their energy may feel close one moment and distant the next. Why something about them feels as if they are on the verge of doing something they cannot quite delay much longer. Because the truth is pressing against every excuse they once used to remain still. And soon, that pressure becomes action. Soon, they will no longer be able to sit comfortably with the knowledge that they may have let someone else's deception interfere with something genuine. Soon, reflection turns into movement. Curiosity turns into courage. Regret turns into intention. The walls they built from confusion are beginning to weaken, and when they finally lower them, what comes through may be more honest than anything you have heard before. Because the next step they are considering is not small. It is personal. It is direct. And it may change everything between you. They are approaching the moment where thinking is no longer enough. Reflection has taken them as far as it can. The memories have replayed, the doubts have unraveled, the truth has settled deeper than denial can reach, and now they feel the pull to do what once seemed impossible, face what happened, and face you with honesty. This is not an impulse. This is what happens when someone can no longer ignore the weight of what they know. The more clearly they see how outside influence shaped their decisions, the more impossible it becomes to remain silent and call that peace. Your person is beginning to understand that distance did not erase what they felt. Time did not dissolve the connection. Distraction did not replace the meaning of what was between you. If anything, separation sharpened it. Because sometimes it takes losing access to someone's energy before a person understands how deeply it mattered. And now that realization follows them into quiet moments, into late hours, into ordinary days that suddenly do not feel so ordinary. Your absence has become a mirror, showing them exactly what their life has felt like without the truth fully acknowledged. What unsettles them most is not only that they were misled, it is that part of them always sensed something was off and ignored it. They are confronting the fact that their intuition tried to warn them. Their heart tried to tell them. The piece never sat right. The narrative never fully matched the person they knew you to be. But they chose confusion over instinct. And now they must live with the understanding that they may have delayed something meaningful because they listened to noise instead of inner knowing. That realization humbles a person. It softens them. It strips away the pride that once kept them emotionally guarded. And now, the version of them that once resisted this connection is fading. In its place is someone more aware. More honest. More willing to admit what they truly feel. Do not underestimate what that means. Because when a person reaches the point where truth becomes stronger than ego, they stop caring about appearing unaffected. They stop pretending indifference. They stop rehearsing distance. They begin craving authenticity, even if it requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is where real movement begins. Something important is waiting just beyond this moment, because they are no longer asking themselves whether they should reach out, they are beginning to wonder how. How to explain what they now understand. How to approach you after all this silence. How to admit that their perception was influenced. How to reveal that the story they believe no longer holds power over them. They know that if they come forward, they cannot do so halfway. Surface-level words will not be enough. Casual conversation will not undo what has been felt. If they return, it must be with sincerity. With truth. With the kind of honesty that leaves no room for confusion. That is why they have not rushed. They are not preparing for a meaningless interaction. They are preparing for a moment that may define what happens next between you. And the energy surrounding them is shifting quickly now. Because the closer they get to speaking, the more they realize this is not just about correcting a misunderstanding. It is about revealing feelings they have hidden even from themselves. And when those feelings finally come to the surface, what they confess may be far deeper than you expect. What they are preparing to reveal is not just an apology, not just an explanation, but a truth they have struggled to admit even in private. Because somewhere in the middle of all this reflection, something became impossible for them to deny. Their feelings for you never disappeared. They were buried beneath confusion, influenced by outside voices, delayed by pride, but they were never gone. And now that the distortion has fallen away, what remains is raw, undeniable, and far stronger than before. They are not simply realizing they were misled, they are realizing how deeply they cared all along. That understanding has changed everything inside them. Because it is one thing to discover someone interfered with your perception. It is another to realize that interference may have cost you a connection your heart still has not released. That thought follows them everywhere now. In quiet moments, in restless thoughts, in memories that return without warning, they keep arriving at the same realization: no matter how much distance was created, no one else ever carried your energy. No one else felt like you. No one else left the same imprint. And now they understand why forgetting you never truly worked, because their feelings were never built on illusion. They were built on something real. Stay with this, because the next part matters. The more they accept what they feel, the less control they have over hiding it. Their composure is beginning to crack beneath the weight of honesty. They can only pretend neutrality for so long when their heart is pulling them toward truth this strongly. They may still appear cautious on the outside, but internally they are rehearsing possibilities. Imagining what they would say if given the chance, replaying how they might explain everything, wondering whether you would even listen if they finally opened up. That uncertainty has made them hesitate, but not for much longer. Because a person can only suppress clarity for so long before action becomes necessary. And what they are beginning to understand is this: if they remain silent now, they may lose the chance to tell you what should have been said long ago. That thought unsettles them more than rejection ever could. The fear of speaking is real, but the fear of never speaking at all is becoming greater. That is why the energy around this connection feels so charged lately. Something is building. Emotion is reaching a point where silence no longer feels sustainable. The truth within them is becoming too heavy to carry quietly. When they finally come forward, do not expect cold formality. Do not expect shallow words. What they have been holding back has matured in silence. It has deepened through reflection. It has sharpened through regret. And when someone carries unspoken feelings for this long, especially after realizing they were misled, their honesty does not emerge in fragments. It pours out. Suddenly. Deeply. Unfiltered. Because when they speak, they may not only tell you that they were wrong about what they believed. They may tell you that losing you made them realize what you truly meant. And that confession is only the beginning of what they have been waiting to say. For a long time, they tried to treat this as something temporary, a feeling that would fade if ignored, a connection that would weaken with enough distance, a memory that would eventually lose its weight. But instead of fading, everything grew louder. The silence did not erase you, it amplified you. Every unanswered thought, every unfinished emotion, every moment left unresolved has only intensified what they feel. And now they understand something they resisted for far too long: some connections do not disappear just because they were interrupted. Some truths wait patiently until the heart is ready to face them. Your person is standing at that edge now, where denial no longer feels honest, and avoidance no longer feels possible. They are not just thinking about reaching out, they are feeling the urgency of it. Because when someone realizes they have misunderstood both a person and their own emotions, a strange pressure builds inside them. It becomes impossible to keep pretending nothing remains unsaid. Impossible to keep acting as if the connection meant less than it did. Impossible to silence the part of them that knows you deserve the truth. And the truth they want to tell you is larger than one misunderstanding. They want to tell you that they see now how your heart stayed genuine even when misunderstood. They want to tell you that the way you carried yourself through confusion revealed more about your character than any accusation ever could. They want to admit that your grace in silence, your restraint when you could have defended yourself, your quiet dignity when things turned unclear, forced them to eventually question everything. Because people who are truly what others claim them to be rarely move with the kind of peace you did. And whether they admitted it then or not, your energy never matched the narrative they were given. That realization has stayed with them. It has grown into admiration. And admiration, when mixed with regret and unresolved feeling, becomes something almost impossible to contain. They are no longer just missing you. They are respecting you more deeply than before. Seeing you more clearly than before. Valuing you in ways they were not mature enough to when confusion first entered the picture. Something important is waiting for you in that truth, because when someone returns with clearer vision, they do not come back the same way they left. They return with understanding. They return with humility. They return knowing exactly what your presence meant. Still, there is one final barrier they must cross. Not doubt. Not confusion. Not outside interference. Fear. Fear that they may have realized everything too late. Fear that your heart has moved on while theirs was still learning. Fear that the silence between you may have changed too much. Fear that the version of you they now understand may no longer be available to them in the way it once was. And yet, despite that fear, they are still being pulled toward you. Because some truths matter more than comfort. Some feelings matter more than pride. Some people matter too much to remain a mystery forever. And when they finally gather the courage to step through that fear, the first words they choose may reveal just how long they have loved you in silence.